So I was thinking about this the other day. I was wondering to myself, what if we could all just go back to living like it was in the 90s? Even for people that weren't in their teens or early 20s in the 90s. What if we just all went to that kind of living where it was just advanced enough in terms of technology to where we could actually, use it for good things, but it wasn't so overkill to the point where it killed all of our focus, all of our attention, our social lives, and all these different things. It's funny. We were given this promise by these huge software and tech companies that the whole reason of all this stuff, the whole point they keep advancing this stuff is to make our lives easier, make everything we do on a daily basis much easier. And of course, there are some aspects of it that are making our lives easier. Things like Uber, Airbnb, Amazon Prime. I have to admit, these are all amazing services, and I think a lot of people can agree on that. But there is a lot more damage that's happening, especially in 2025, than there are good things to come from technology. So I was thinking about this. There really is nothing stopping people, especially younger people and Gen Z. There's nothing really stopping us from just all agreeing and getting together to, pretty much abandon the whole social media world, the late stage capitalism world, the internet. And of course, I'm not saying entirely get rid of the internet and stop using it, but, restrict it heavily, limit it completely, and kind of live a life where everything's a lot more analog. Instead of using your phone's notes, you actually have a notebook you carry around everywhere. Or instead of using your phone's camera for everything, you actually have a camera. Instead of checking your phone all the time for the time, you have an actual watch. It's funny, people in Gen Z, like, wearing a watch is like not that common of a thing anymore, which is crazy to say. But like, people in Gen Z, like, more than half of them never wear watches. And I do really think there is beauty in having a certain physical object for these different purposes. I really do believe that. I think having a watch is super cool nowadays. Having an actual physical camera, having a notebook, having physical CDs or vinyls, instead of just having a subscription where, you could wake up one morning and all of your songs just get wiped off your phone because the company decides they don't want you to have it anymore. With physical media, you actually own the music. You actually own the content, and no one can take that away from you. DVDs for movies. Now, of course, these companies are trying very hard to make it hard to go back to this kind of living. A lot of companies and stores and businesses now, they're pretty much trying to build a heavier reliance on smartphones. Like my gym that I go to now, as of recently, they've fully replaced the whole key fobs thing. You can't just use a key fob or a keychain to enter the gym. Now you have to use your smartphone to tap onto the door and then it unlocks. And I even asked one of the managers at the gym, I was like, is there no other way to get into the gym? Like, I kind of want to have a fob. I don't want to rely on my phone. And he's like, yeah, man, we don't really have fobs anymore. We're trying to get rid of them. And so I just thought to myself, like, this is what they're trying to do. And a lot of airports now across the country, they do not accept cash, like at all. The airport in my city, in my hometown, they don't take cash. And I know because I've tried. They don't take cash. You have to use credit cards. And you know what's next? You can kind of guess what comes next, right? It's that, oh, we don't take card anymore. We only take tap to pay. We only take Apple Pay. And then after that, it's going to be chips. And then, just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And not to sound like negative or pessimistic, but this is just the trajectory of it all. This is where it's going. And if we don't all come together to decide to do something about this, then they're going to keep going with it. And so going back to the main point is I think a lot of people deep down want to live a more analog lifestyle. I think we could all benefit from it. Of course, there are some aspects, like I mentioned, that are good in new technology. A lot of services, like I mentioned, Uber is a great one. Amazon Prime is a great one. All these different services, DoorDash occasionally when you just really don't want to get food, you can order DoorDash on your phone. Nothing that wrong with that. Of course, if you take it too far, you become lazy. But there are a lot of things that are still really useful with technology. I think AI is a huge thing that's, being talked about for obvious reasons. And again, AI can be very dangerous, and I think it will be very dangerous in a lot of ways, but there are a lot of benefits to it. It's pretty much like having an above average IQ person that you can talk to 24/7. That's the way I see it. Now, are people using it for harm? Absolutely. Are people using it for nasty reasons? Absolutely. Are they using it to manipulate people, lie to people, trick people? Absolutely. But the best position to be in my opinion, as someone that's 21 years old living in America, is you need to have the stability and the predictability of having an analog lifestyle and then sprinkling in some benefits of new technology. So I in my opinion, I think that the best way for us to live as young people, guys and girls, is to have like 70% of our lifestyle relying on analog media or analog devices, objects, things like that. We need to stop trying to put everything on a screen and stop trying to centralize everything onto one damn thing. I really do hate how all these companies and you can call them authorities, they're trying to make everything into our phones. And they keep adding to the list. It's like a few years ago, Apple Pay wasn't even a thing. Now you can pay, you can make transactions, $2,000 transactions, you can buy stuff with your phone. And God knows what's going to happen with AI with our phones. So it's like, my point is like, if we don't decide to collectively change something now, it's going to be too late. And I was looking around for a community where I could relate to people in my generation in trying to improve my life in this way and trying to remove social media out of my life, remove these toxic distractions, the news, political wars, arguments on these apps. I was trying to find a community where I could relate to people in this whole journey of going more analog. And I kid you not, I could not find any community that wasn't $5,000 to join or $2,000. And even if it did cost money, it was always a really weird group. Like it was either really inactive, they were just a bunch of weird people in there. No one would show what they actually looked like. Everyone tried to remain anonymous. A bunch of different weird problems with these groups. And so I had the idea the other day. I was going on a walk in my neighborhood, and I thought to myself, why don't I just start something like this? Why don't I start a community where guys and girls in Gen Z can actually relate to each other and join a community where we're all in the same process, we're all in the same mission, and we have the same vision in things like getting rid of social media, removing these distractions, making more time and giving ourselves more attention to focus on what we actually want in our lives, which is probably things like better friendships, better relationships. We want to learn new languages, get better skill sets under our belt, get a higher paying job, save more money, get better with our finances, eat healthier. It's like deep down, these are all strong desires that we all have, including myself, of course. But it always gets piled up and covered by other garbage like social media, news, drama, celebrities, conversations that have no value, eating terrible food, and then you end up feeling like shit every single day because you're just super low energy. All these different things. It's like we all collectively want these things. We all want to improve our lives in some way. Yet there's no one out there. It's crazy. We've gotten to a point in society where it's so evil and so destructive, and just all these other bad attributes. It's so bad to where there's not even a couple different people out there that have successfully made these large communities that are completely free, that can actually help Gen Z, that can help, my generation, your generation, in getting what we want out of life. And let's be honest, like if a lot of us actually agreed to work together to live a more analog life, do more offline activities, go outside more. If we all agreed to do these things together, then it would actually be seen as cool. The biggest roadblock I've realized through a lot of curiosity and research on my own and just seeing what happens in my own life, the biggest thing holding back most people my age from actually getting rid of social media once and for all, or going outside more, actually, getting out of their comfort zone, making more friends, doing all these amazing things, the biggest roadblock that's stopping most people is they have no one to relate to when they're doing this. They have no one to relate to in their current friend group, in their family, in their hometown, at their university, at their job. All these environments you're already in, and you don't have anyone to relate to. In fact, sometimes if you bring this up to some people, they look at you like you're kind of weird, because by definition it is weird. It's unusual. We've reached the point in society where it's unusual and weird to not have an Instagram, to not have a TikTok. And it's so ironic because the first thing people think when they hear that you don't have social media is they think you're antisocial, or they think you're a nerd, or they think you're quiet, when it is quite literally the opposite. If you don't have social media, you're forced to be more social. You're forced to actually go outside your house, go out and meet people, get uncomfortable. That's the choice you have. But the way I see it and the vision I have is if there were 5,000 people, 10,000 people in a completely free community of guys and girls in Gen Z, where we're all trying to improve our lives and go analog, and we all delete social media together and get our attention spans back and get our focus back and get our life back and get our happiness back, then it'd be so much easier. And so that's why I decided I'm going to create this group. And I'm calling it the Offline Group. And this is actually the main reason why I even created this YouTube channel, right? I'm just someone that feels like it's absolutely criminal to charge people money if they want to improve their lives, to charge people money if they want to improve their relationships, to charge people money to meet other like-minded people, their age group. It's become so normalized to charge $100 a month or $500 or $2,000 or $3,000 for a community or a course. That doesn't really help you. It may help you here and there, but it doesn't really have that strength in it, that quality in it, that attention to detail. And so it's such a fresh, unusual idea to make something that's really high quality, that's completely free. And I'm very happy to say that's what I believe I have done. I've created this group for people in Gen Z, guys and girls, that strongly agree that things like social media, products of late stage capitalism, subscriptions everywhere, politics, the news, all this negativity on these screens, they strongly believe that this is what's destroying our generation. It's leading to things like overspending, being antisocial, getting in arguments with people over the smallest things ever, because social media algorithms, they pretty much try to radicalize your view on something. And that explains why, if you look at the numbers, people in Gen Z are more divided than ever when it comes to politics or just worldview in general. It's because of social media. So it's not even an opinion anymore. It's just a straight fact that social media is causing most of the problems in Gen Z. And as someone who's in Gen Z myself, I thought to myself that this has to stop. And if I charge anyone $1 for this, then that's just the biggest insult to my generation. It's the biggest insult to humanity, really. It's so rare nowadays for someone to come in with genuinely good intentions and say, no, I don't want to charge people money if they're looking to improve their life. I personally think that's criminal and it goes against my morals, even though most people nowadays just do that anyways. So I created this group for people that pretty much resonate with anything I said in this video. If you feel like you're someone that would really fit into this group and you've been trying to get rid of things like social media, excessive internet addiction, smartphone addiction, whatever you want to call it. And you really want to focus on more offline activities, outdoor activities, living a more analog life, decentralizing your smartphone and all these amazing things. That is exactly who I made this group for, because that's me. That's what I believe. And the best thing in the world is meeting people that believe that same thing and have that same goal. So I'm going to put the link for that group in the bottom of this video in the description. It's a completely free Discord community. It asks you a couple simple questions like your name, where you're from, and what you hope to get out of the group. And then you're pretty much in, right? We just have to manually accept you in, and you're in. And that's pretty much it. There's no strings attached. There's no upsell, none of that BS. And I can promise you that right now, and I can guarantee you that, because it just simply goes against the whole point of the group and of the mission. So I believe we can truly disconnect in the best way possible as, people in Gen Z, and actually live meaningful, fun, social, exciting, adventurous lives again. And we don't have to leave it at the mercy of these tech companies or these politicians or these people that claim to have our best interests and to really help us, when they only just destroy our lives even more and make things worse for us and only care about themselves. So to me, this is my first step in actually changing my generation and helping each other. And I just think it's absurd to charge people money for that. So I've linked that group at the bottom of this video. It'll be a Discord group link, so make sure to check that out if that's something that you'd be interested in. If you don't think that's something you'd like, then by all means, don't join. I only want people that actually share this vision and agree that social media is very destructive and it's ruining things like relationships, social lives, health, spending problems, spending habits, and pretty much everything under the sun at this point. So yeah, I hope that this is the first step for a lot of y'all's change, because I know it will be for me. And yeah, let's start disconnecting. Let's start living a more offline life, because that's really the best way to do it nowadays. If we don't change now and we keep waiting until things get worse and more, invasive and more radical, then it's going to be too late. So now is really our only chance to change, and I hope you join.